we've danced around it long enough. Let's talk about Harry Potter. Now, for those of you who are watching this in the subsequent YouTube video that's going to go up later, this is Harry Potter, and the books are way worse than you remember because those books are bad. Like they're
Badly written.
bad.
Good
so here's
ideas,
the
badly
thing.
written.
So here's the thing. I don't necessarily think they're all badly written. I think here's the thing about J.K. Rowling. She is really good at writing what she knows. When she starts off the series, she writes Harry as a stand-in character, right? So, like, Ron has very strong opinions. Hermione has very strong opinions. They come from opposing sides, right? Ron grew up in the wizarding world, and Hermione grew up in the human world. Like, they have a specific purpose, right? Harry has no feelings or emotions on any topic, right? That's why when the elf thing comes up, Harry is like Switzerland. He is neutral, right? Hermione and Ron have the very opposing views, of course, because they grew up in two very different worlds, right?
Yeah.
In the human world, where slavery is very frowned upon, and in the wizarding world, where slavery is just a normal thing that happens. So, like,
they like being slaves, Hermione.
They like it.
So you end up with this thing in the very first 4 books where J.K. Rowling is writing what she knows. So she knows England. She knows the different things. You don't really need to set up like details of the magic very much. Harry is a stand-in for the reader, so she doesn't have to try and write an 11-year-old boy. And even if she did, like, child characters are easy, right? Like, there's not a whole lot of complexities to them.
Yeah.
As a child,
I know where you're going with this.
You can get away with a lot more.
Are you about to suggest that J.K. Rowling doesn't know how to write teenage boy angst?
That's not, well, it's part of it, but also once you hit the end of book 4, the books, like, the tone and the story changes.
Okay. So you agree?
Absolutely.
You agree with the sentiment
really,
that those books suffer from absolute tonal whiplash, right?
Yeah. So book 4 and book 5. So books 1 to 4, Harry is a stand-in.
Yeah.
He is the reader. When you're reading the Harry Potter books, you are Harry Potter.
Yeah.
In book 5, all of a sudden, Harry isn't a stand-in anymore. He all of a sudden has to become an active character in his story because he is the chosen one to face Voldemort. He is no longer a stand-in. And this is when you run into issues because now J.K. Rowling is no longer writing what she knows.
Interesting.
Interesting. That's an okay.
And I really I have to plug the Silver Symposium, who is a YouTube channel he has a video called How Harry Potter Revealed Rowling's Writing Problems. He really dives into detail about this issue in her writing, and some stuff I agree with and some stuff I don't, but if you want to deep dive into more of tonal whiplash in the books, he goes like way deeper. It's very, very
I've seen
can't
people
recommend it enough.
who don't agree that there's tonal whiplash in those books.
Really?
I don't think it's on a second listen through with the audiobooks, I didn't find it was as bad as I kind of remembered it because early on there is some dark shit in those first books. Like
sure, absolutely.
But not
I don't think
Voldemort goes from, like, in books 1 to 4, Voldemort goes to, like, the boogeyman off screen to all of a sudden he's a real person.
He's Wizard Bitchler.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
So
the fifth one, I also think part of what makes it in terms of villains is it introduces Umbridge.
how lovely to see all your bright, happy faces smiling up at me.
She is, to me, Vader.
She's a better villain than Voldemort, in my opinion.
She's a more realistic villain, is how I would word it, because we've all known an Umbridge.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've all known the passive aggressive, pardon my French, but bitch of a character who will snipe at you from behind the scenes and treat you awful. And the thing that makes Voldemort less scary or less realistic is he's so over the top. That
It's not even that he's so over the top. Umbridge is an active villain. Like, if you cross her, she makes you suffer, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you look at how Harry has to write the lines.
Into his arm.
Lines, and it's carving into his arm. Like, when Voldemort is described in the books, he's described to you as a very scary, very villainous character.
He's a monster.
We don't see him actively out there kicking puppies. Do you know what I mean?
Well, here's what I would say to that.
The weight of his villainy, like, I'm not seeing that as a reader. But Umbridge, I am actively seeing her be a terror in Hogwarts.
What I would say that, especially in the later books with Voldemort, is by book 5 or 6, this is a multimedia extravaganza. I think by the time book 5 comes out, the movies are coming out at that point, I believe. So I think, especially in the later books, where Voldemort is indicated to have a backstory and like a hidden history that we're not seeing. He's a handsome, young, charismatic guy. I truly think she wanted to do a Voldemort spin-off, and she just couldn't get it off the ground. Like,
I could believe that.
I like, same thing with Harry's dad. Harry's dad. Those books feel written to generate a spin-off for her to do about those characters, and that's why their backstories are vague and unmentioned. Just based on how I know how Hollywood works. You know, sausage being made and all that. That's how that comes across to me.
But to then bring it into the realm of the movies, of the adaptions, I honestly, the first one is the best one.
I think so.
I think it's the best one anyway, but that's purely because it's the simplest.
Yeah.
Like movie 1?
Yeah.
The first movie
1 and 2 were my favorite Harry Potter movies.
They're the best ones, I think. They're the most accurate.
Like, I can rewatch those and feel all of the nostalgia.
My thing with
because there's so much like blank space and downtime in the first 2 books.
Yeah, you can just cut
stuff that they're cutting. You can just cut that.
Yeah.
Cut it. Well, here's my thing.
The movie ends up being the condensed version that you need.
Well, okay, tell me if you agree with this sentiment as a more literature-focused person. The pacing in the Harry Potter books is bad. It's just bad. It's just not very good. They're slow books for no reason. That first chapter, I call that first chapter of that first book. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I understand why every other publisher rejected it. Because it is a meandering, boring chapter. Why would you start your Magic Boy book without your Magic Boy? I don't understand that.
Oh, I feel like within the first book, that chapter either needed to be shown as a retrospective chapter later on in the book.
Or something.
Or the book needed to start earlier.
Yeah, I completely
agree. The book needed to start with Voldemort killing Harry's parents.
Well,
that needed to be chapter 1.
I don't have an issue with where the movie starts, which is I think the second chapter of the book, if I'm not mistaken, which is Dumbledore.
Or later. So it either needed to start earlier or later, and that first chapter either needed to be cut or placed different, like further into the book.
Because I didn't mind.
I think that the chapter maybe like if you had started like the
The
movie
chapter
does,
could
where
have been shorter. It could have been a
Yeah.
that too.
prologue.
Yeah, it could have been a prologue. Because
It
Well,
could have
I
been.
it comes across like it's supposed to be a prologue.
it's just not
Um,
working.
it just doesn't
I
work.
don't
Like
need
they
to know the inner
Of
workings
a character we don't see again.
like Mr. Dursley. Like why do
yeah,
why do I care about him?
Right?
they just really they really want to set up how normal and how not magical he is, so that when Harry
Yeah,
gets
but
his
why do I have to
powers,
read that for a whole entire chapter?
My thing
that's
is like,
It,
you. The answer is you don't, which is why they don't do that
which
in
is
the
why
movie.
every other
yeah.
editor rejected this manuscript. My thing is like, I don't mind having a chapter where it's them talking about what's happened to Harry. Like I say, like the ones where it's like Dumbledore and McGonagall talking about what has happened. I don't mind starting there. But yeah, to have an entire chapter Vernon Dursley, a character who will ultimately become irrelevant. Several like my thing with that first book is it takes Harry so long to get to Hogwarts. Like that's my thing with those books. Is the thing you want out of those books is for Harry to go to Hogwarts, and it takes him an excruciatingly long amount of time to do it in every single one. I maintain.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say I maintain that
We
fifth
have to
book
go
is
through Dursley's birthday.
right. Like
What's the point of that scene? Like, how does that scene affect the plot?
right? Like I
Does it?
maintain the fifth book is the worst one. Like the pacing in that book is horrendous. The movie
Fifth
honestly is
book
better than the
might
book.
have fifth book might be the worst paced, but it has the best scene in the entire series, in my opinion,
Go on.
which is the wizard battle at the end.
Oh, but the movie's fucking up
'Cause-
so badly.
Because I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about the book.
The book is good, yeah.
Because in all of the other battles, you have specific formula, right? It's someone who's Avada Kedavraing, who is whatever the spell is.
Crucioing.
No, not they don't though. Voldemort so rarely ever uses those curses. And this is what I'm saying. If he was a villain, he should be using those curses. He should not be Avada Kedavraing people. He should be using Crucio on people and then Avada Kedavraing them. Why
Yeah.
isn't he doing that? Like, he's supposed to be this like evil, heartless person. You know what's not heartless? Just immediately killing someone without letting them suffer.
That is true. I think it's
That
because
is a mercy.
Oh, and my thing with magic is ultimately magic in that universe is not really all that helpful.
At the end of book 5, you don't have that formula. You have them using things around them to battle. Like when I imagine a wizard battle, I imagine them doing what they do at the end of book 5. Grabbing and using and like whatever they have in their vicinity and just like hucking shit at people.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have the entire magic disposal and you're just using like, trying to disarm them. That's so boring.
True.
Like this is the wizard, like when I think of wizard battles, this is the battle that I want to see every single time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that scene just in and of itself is one of the better scenes in the series, in my opinion.
But you have to put up with book 5 Harry Potter, who's just the worst. He's the worst.
Yeah, well, it's because it's the tonal shift, right? All of a sudden now, J.K. Rowling has to write a character that she has no personal experience with. And if you read even her other writing, she really, really struggles to do this. She does not know how to write things that she doesn't have personal experience with.
I mean, okay, well, you want to talk about casting. Daniel Radcliffe does such a great job in that 5th movie of taking all this stuff that makes Harry insufferable in that book and like just filing it like right down to okay, he's actually tolerable now and it's easy to
He brings an actual he was an actual teenage boy, so he knows how a teenage boy would act, and he brings that to it.
Yes.
Is kind of how I would put it.
also Ron gets fucked in those movies.
Oh, Ron gets fucked
Yes.
so bad. There's so many lines in the books where um it's a line that Ron or Harry will have, and it gets given to Hermione because Hermione has to be smart, and they want I don't it just
They need her to be
so
the
like
smart one.
Bothers me.
yeah, like in the
I mean,
a
even if
perfect
you watch
example.
the interviews with the director, like it was the same director for the fifth and sixth movie. If you
Yeah.
watch the director interviews for the sixth movie, he was like, "Yeah, I've never done like a rom com before, but I really wanted to do that with this movie."
But
Yeah.
that's
That
not
was
what it's supposed to be.
no, and that's why one of the reasons why it's so
Ugh,
bad.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hate I hate that
Because
movie. I
his
hate that movie so
direction in the
much.
fifth movie was actually quite good.
I look
Like,
that he condensed that monstrosity of a book and the bad like that. People compared that movie to like that's when that when her editor became afraid of J.K. Rowling and didn't know how to say enough was enough. Like that
Yeah,
book
it's
could be
like
two
this
books.
thick.
I mean, even when you're listening to
yeah.
it, that book could be two books. Like that was just my first thing.
I
Like
And
this
mean,
that's
could be two
even
another
books.
thing that happened that happens with most people. Once you hit a certain level of fame,
Yeah.
there becomes a lot less people telling you no.
I remember that
And
book.
yeah.
unfortunately, J.K. Rowling really suffers from that.
And
Like, it's to her detriment, really.
also, those books
Absolutely.
don't have an ending.
I
Like
mean, they just get the hit the end of the year and stop.
no, I mean the seventh book. That's the number one thing I remember the last time I read it. He kills Voldemort and then it just ends and it's an epilogue.
Ten,
There's no
10 years
ending.
later.
Yeah, there's no
Years
ending.
later.
They don't reconcile. Like, okay, now Voldemort's dead. And there's a power vacuum.
What
Like
happened
Because
to his
Voldemort's dead and
followers?
Dumbledore's dead.
Dumbledore's dead.
Like,
Harry doesn't
now what?
emotionally reconcile with the fact that half of his friends are now dead. Like a Weasley twin is just dead, and they never address it. They never address it. They never talk about it. They never. The movie just hard cuts to 10 years later, and now he has 5 kids. Like it's very
But
bizarre.
but I think we have to talk about the third one,
Harry got the
and
girl in
and,
the end. That's what we
and
all wanted, right?
That's
Harry got the wrong girl.
Harry
Harry
got.
should have gotten Hermione. I maintain that.
I mean,
Her and Ron getting together was a mistake. I don't agree with that. Um, Hermione should have ended up with Harry.
I mean,
Anyway,
I maintain him
the
and
third one.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I was gonna say I maintain her and Jenny getting together comes completely out of nowhere in both the books and the movie. I maintain that. I
Har-
stand by that.
Harry and Ginny was
But
weird. That was weird to me.
I do feel like the book did a better job at having it be a slower introduction
It's
at the
Oh,
very least.
it's
The
better.
book, it's just all of a sudden in the
it's
books.
Yeah,
it's better in the books.
In the movie, sorry, it's all of a sudden, but in the books it's at least a little bit slower. But I do feel like very weird because when he first meets Ginny, like, she is a literal child.
right. It's weird.
I mean, to be fair,
The age
when he
difference
first
is
when he first meets Ginny, he is also a literal child. So
yeah,
like they're
but
all they're a year apart.
Also that book
are they
that
only a year apart?
They're a year apart
Oh, I thought
because
there was
she
a large. I thought there was a bigger age difference between them. That's my bad.
yeah no in the second
Chamber of Secrets is Ginny's first year at Hogwarts, and
Oh
that's his
yeah. Oh,
second
true,
year.
true, very true.
So
I'm
that
probably
wasn't
just confusing it with the movie where they.
in the movie they like have like one conversation and that's kind of it.
one
Yeah.
conversation until like the sixth one when they are all of a sudden in love with each other.
Right, and yeah,
Um,
the third movie is incomprehensible if you've never read the book.
which kind of sorry to kind of is my main thesis of the Harry Potter movies is they cut so much out that they kind of just they expect that you read the books.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
And it's at a detriment to those movies because um third one, for example, there's so much. I guess we kind of skipped the second one because that one is just it's fine.
We're
um
jumping around. It's just Harry Potter
we're
generally.
jumping around to the third one, which um oh man, that one from Hermione just immediately having Crookshanks in the movie and and that whole storyline getting neutered to uh, them cutting out Harry getting the firebolt and Hermione being like, that could be a jinxed broom, and that whole thing. There's so much that gets cut out from the movie. Also, as I'm listening to it this time, like just the story generally, I've asked this before, I'll ask this again. What was she thinking, like introducing the time turners? Why would you bring time travel into your story? That's just okay, so you have time travel magic and you have the worst dark wizard in all of history, and I'm supposed to
Yeah.
believe that he didn't figure out, like he didn't go and try and figure out time travel magic to make himself
Okay.
more powerful?
Yeah. So this is another issue that J.K. Rowling has, which is that she's incurious. And this is also a detriment. So she doesn't think of things. She is not curious about things. It shows in her writing. So she doesn't deep dive into her world and think of the plot holes and the things that doesn't work. Like, even if you think of how she has one wizarding school for like all of Asia.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like
that's definitely one of them.
that's like 3 billion people.
Well, okay, here's one for you.
One wizarding school, right? And so like she really hasn't delved into the world or the magic system. And part of that is just because as a person, she is incurious. She doesn't do the research.
She hasn't thought it out. No, she hasn't
Then
thought
you
it
end
out.
up with things like this, with the time turners, and you're like, what the hell? And it's because she just incurious and she just expects the people reading her books to also be incurious and not question these things.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
For sure. I
So-
mean, yeah, she doesn't ask these questions. She just needed a plot device at the end of her
She
third
needed
book.
a plot device.
Yeah.
Which it makes it especially egregious when then the cursed child comes out and she like doubles down on the time turner
we don't have time
shenanigans
for the cursed child. Here's what I will say about the cursed child is I read that before the script came out. It leaked.
It's like a bad fan fiction.
It leaked. The plot descriptions of it leaked on the internet, and I sent it to a friend, and she went, "This is fake, right?" And I went, "It's gotta be. It's gotta be fake. It's so bad. It's one
Gotta
of the
be a fanfic.
It's one of the worst things I've ever read.
A bad one.
And
The author writes her own fan.
the script came out. She didn't write it. She gave like input on the plot, but she didn't directly write it. But it's marketed as the 8th Harry Potter book. Like it's one of the worst things I've ever read.
Of course, they had to market it as the 8th Harry Potter book so that it would sell.
Horrendous.
It's like that Prince of Persia game that they called Prince of Persia, but isn't actually a Prince of Persia game. It's like they needed the name to sell it, right?
Yeah,
because they knew it otherwise it wasn't going
Because
to.
they knew otherwise it wasn't going to work.
I hear
and
it's
it
a
wouldn't
visually
be popular.
stunning play. Like I hear, like the staging of it looks good. If you stop thinking about well, apparently the biggest thing is that
about the nonsensical plot.
The big one is that Voldemort sired a kid, which just flies in the face of Voldemort as a character. Like
what?
Yeah, that's the big plot twist. Have you never read it? That's the big plot twist. That it turns out.
I read the Spark Notes version.
Oh, I read. Yeah, it turns out in the end that one of
Are
the.
Are you kidding? I'm not gonna waste that.
One of
that kind of time.
One of the characters.
Justin, she has a bookshelf with like way too many actually good books.
Yeah, one of the characters turns out the big twist is that she's Voldemort's kid that he had with Bellatrix. Yeah, I know, right? Doesn't make a lick of sense.
Isn't the reason why Bellatrix is crazy is because of what happened to her husband? Isn't that part of the reason?
Yeah.
Her kid?
I believe so, yeah.
Her husband and her kid?
I honestly don't remember. I just know she's crazy. And in the audiobook, they pronounce it Lestrange, and it's really distracting.
Yeah, but they also pronounce it Voldemort, and it's distracting, so...
Bellatrix Lestrange.
But yeah, no, the third one is gutted. And if you think the third one is gutted, the fourth movie is definitely gutted.
Oh boy, did that get gutted. They ruined the twist in that movie. Why?
Boy.
Why did they give him a really obvious fate? Why do they telegraph why do movies telegraph good twists in books?
Yeah, that... with the mouth.
With the mouth, yeah, giving away the weird facial tick. Like that
But I
movie.
mean, to be fair, with that one, um, there's scenes where it's like it's just he wasn't at the house in the beginning.
Probably inventing
There's a
Bellatrix's
lot.
backstory so that she seems cooler.
Probably.
I feel like JKR is not smart enough to think up that interesting of a backstory where her family was like tortured and it caused her to go crazy.
I mean, we don't have time to talk about the weird consent questions in those Fantastic Beast movies. The one thing I will say that I mean we haven't even talked about the bigotry that's been caked into her into those books. My favorite was a friend Jake who hadn't realized how much fat phobia was in those books.
Oh, so you know how I said um Hermione, they majorly change her in the movies to make her more appealing and a better person and smarter. An example of that is in Goblet of Fire. In the book, after his scar hurts, Harry immediately tells Sirius, whereas in the movie, it's Hermione who convinces him to do it because apparently, Harry just can't decide to do things on his own under his own
He's
autonomy.
a substantially stupider character in the
Uh,
movies.
Like we
So
also
is
really
Ron.
didn't get any. We got that like one really disappointing Sirius Black scene in the fourth movie.
Yeah, he is also a character that gets
Like Sirius Black in the books is like is a way more important character
he's
in
a
the books
way
to
more major
Harry, and
character.
in the
Oh,
movie
absolutely.
you like don't even see him. So it's like by the time you get to the
Not
fifth
really.
movie and he dies, you're like, why do I care about this guy
It's
anyway?
even weirder
And
because
it's the same too with Dobby, where in the book he's peppered throughout those books a lot more, and you see him like in the fourth one, he's the one who gives Harry the gillyweed, not Neville Longbottom.
right.
They visit him in the kitchen. There's the whole Winky aspect of it that gets cut. Barty Crouch is a character in the book who's not in the movies at all.
Same, yeah.
Um,
No. Barty Crouch is in the movies. He's in the movie.
no, he's not.
Barty Crouch. He's very much in
He's
the.
not Barty Crouch.
You're thinking of Ludo
Um,
Bagman.
Ludo
Yeah,
Bagman.
Ludo
Sorry,
Bagman they completely cut out. Barty Crouch very much is in the
Ludo
movie.
Ludo Bagman is who I meant. Um, there's so many strange names. Okay, I'm sorry, they all get mixed up. My
Look,
brain
we're
can't
gonna talk
handle
about
them
the
all.
Hunger Games. You want to talk some strange names?
But
Yeah.
so I guess because we could talk about Harry Potter all day.
Yeah.
Um, I guess my final thoughts are these movies would be much less forgiven if it wasn't for the actors that are in them.
Yeah,
It is absolutely an example where
I think so.
the actors
The
elevate the
actors carried
product.
the movies.
Yeah, basically.
Except for
Um,
Dumbledore. Okay. Here's my final question for this. Jordan has always
Okay.
disagreed with me on this. Um,
Yes.
there's a guy I follow who said there has never been a good version of Dumbledore on screen. The closest we have ever gotten to a good version of Dumbledore is oh, I wound up to this one. Jude Law. Jude Law in the Fantastic Beast movies. In the sense that he has the correct energy and like characterization. Otherwise, he has never really been well
Yeah,
portrayed on
Jude
screen.
Law also took on sorry, I don't I'm blanking on the actor's name who was the second Dumbledore.
Oh, Gambin, something
Uh,
Gambin.
yeah. So Jude Law took on a similar cadence that Gambin talks with. Even like
True, yeah, true.
so
like that same the like similar like inflection and like the way that he says certain words, like his cadence is very similar, and that's props to Jude Law for that because he really made an effort
to match it up.
But I loved the actor who played Dumbledore in movie 1 and 2. Like when
boom.
I pictured Dumbledore as like a kid when I was reading the books, and
Yeah.
I saw this like elderly like white haired in the like robes
Yeah.
with the very like quiet, tame, timid speech, and was always kind of talking a little bit like this, and oh Harry, like don't worry about like That was my like image
See,
of
his
Dumbledore
point-
when I was reading.
Me too, and so that's kind of what in the books. That's why it was always supposed to be a big deal when he did all the high energy magic and he did all the stuff, because it was like Dumbledore is old as fuck and he's still able to do all this stuff. That's impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think Dumbledore doing high energy stuff is necessarily bad or out of character. I feel like Gambon put too much, and it was like too much high energy.
Yeah, he always felt like he was gonna yell at Harry at like any moment for no reason.
Like I felt like it was like the opposing sides of the spectrum, where the first actor was very, very toned down,
Yeah.
and then the second actor was like very, very high strung, and would
Yeah.
have been great if they had met somewhere in the middle, so you got a little bit of both.
Yes,
I agree.
I agree.
I agree with that.
So Jordan,
But of the two, I prefer the gentleman who played
I
him in
prefer
1 and 2.
the gentle like Dumbledore, because that's how I pictured him much more.
Me too.
Jordan, do we
more
hit all the
gentle
Harry
version
Potter
of
movies?
Yeah. I mean,
the
we spark
seventh
notes
movie
them.
didn't have to be 2 movies. I don't understand why I needed to watch 1 movie of them just being in a fucking tent.
No, these never do. I mean, we're gonna talk about the Hunger Games and the fourth and third and fourth Hunger Games movie.
But, yeah,
But they never do.
I'm pretty like general consensus. The 4th and 6th movies were the worst. The first 2 were generally the best, and the other ones were just kind of like the actors doing their darndest to work with what they're had.
Like, we're in the 7th and 8th movie. We want this desperately to be done so we can move on with our careers.
We've been doing this since we were like 11. We'd like to not do this anymore.
They're in what I like to call Stranger Things time, where they're desperately attached to a thing they no longer want to be associated with.
I signed this contract, and I can't wait until it's done.
Millie Bobby Brown desperately wants Stranger Things to be over more than any person on the planet. She just wants that show to end so badly. Speaking of Stranger Things. Hey everybody, it's N-Card Justin here again. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think the worst Harry Potter thing is, and why is it the cursed child? It's the cursed child. That's the worst Harry Potter thing. I will take no other answers. But if you do have another answer, you can leave it in the comments down below. And if you want to see the full 4.5-hour epic podcast that this video is from, where we talked about many other book to movie adaptations, you can click the box on the left. And if you want to see a random video that YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy, you can click the box on the right. Otherwise, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and have a good day, everybody.